Jenny, thank you so much for joining us on the virtual campground.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
Good, good, good. Well, I wanted to interview you because you had posted some photos in the Facebook renovations group, and I just thought it looked great. So, wanted to spend a few minutes with you just talking about your renovation, your experience, some tips that you might be able to share with the other renovators out there. So, Jenny, tell us about your rig that you renovated. Make, model, year, all those good details.
Okay, so we bought a 2011 Forest River Forester. I believe the model's 3121. It's a Class C 32 foot.
So let's talk about your biggest challenges in renovating. When you were going through this renovation, what made it difficult for you?
I think a few challenges we had is I know how to paint, but as far as handiwork, wood type work, we have zero experience with that. So my husband actually bought a miter saw and learned how to use it for the first time just for this renovation because we knew that we would have to do some trim work and stuff like that that we had to learn how to do. So that was a little bit of a challenge, just the learning curve. And then the flooring was a little tricky just because some of the cuts I just was not sure how to make. So those were probably the two big challenges for us.
Okay. And then when you bought this rig, why did you even want to renovate? What made you start going down this path?
Well, I mean, I knew I was going to get a rig to renovate before I even saw it. So when I first saw it in the first place, I was already processing in my mind everything that I would have to do to it because I knew that living in a big brown space was just not going to work for me. It wouldn't. That would not. I need a place where I can feel happiness, and I can't feel happiness in that. So.
Yeah, yeah, understandable. As far as you, now that you've done this renovation, um, what advice would you give to other people that are considering a similar one?
Ugh. Well, the painting took forever, and we didn't have a sprayer, so we did it all by hand. And the weather was very uncooperative. We were painting. We pulled out the awning, and we did most of the cabinet painting under the awning outside in South Texas in the summer. So it just took much longer than I thought. I think if you can get a sprayer and do it that way, it's probably better. And if I had to do it again, I would do it that way.
Okay, Jenny, so let's take a look. You sent over some photos of some parts of your renovation. So let's take a look at that. The first one I have up is the living room before. So as you
Yes.
brought this rig home and you walked in and looked at it, tell me what your thoughts were about what you wanted to do to this particular space.
So we knew that we had to get rid of the carpet. There was no way that that could stay. I knew that the fabric on the dinette was going to have to go, and we knew we were going to be okay with the couch. It's not maybe what I would have chosen, but it's brand new, and I knew I could be okay with that. I knew I would have to paint the cabinets and walls. Initially, I thought I was going to choose to be okay with the brown entertainment center, but I wasn't. So we did that as well.
Well, the after photo is quite shocking. It's quite a transformation. Really beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean that.
Thank
Of
you.
course, painting the
Thank you.
cabinets that white or off white, it's hard to tell here. What color would you call that? Is that just a basic white?
Well, we used I believe it's Rust-Oleum chalked,
Okay.
and it's the white that they have. I think it might be called linen white.
Okay.
So that's what the cabinets are, and we ended up using that to match just the latex paint for the walls as well. So it's all the same.
Yeah, it brightened it up really nicely, and then the
Yeah.
cushions on the couch really bring tie that together. And the new flooring. Tell us about the flooring. What kind of floor is that, and then how difficult was that to put in?
So we just really got the cheapest peel and stick plank flooring that Lowe's had. I think it was about $1 a square foot, and I think we bought 3 boxes. I don't know that we used all of it, and it's super easy to cut. I mean, you just have to use an X-Acto knife. So That was pretty easy, except that we pulled up the linoleum, and so there was only subfloor, and the peel and stick would not stick to that subfloor,
Hmm.
and so we had to use a spray adhesive to get it to stick.
Okay.
So,
All right. And tell me about the slides. What did you do around the slides?
yeah, and I wish I had a better picture there. So we ended up leaving a little bit of the carpet, but we pulled up most of it because the carpet went all the way to where the driver's seats are, and they're all around that area. So we pulled it all out. And my husband just got like a metal like threshold that you would use for flooring to kind of make a reasonably okay transition between the carpet that's under the slide and the flooring. So you can see that little black strip
Mm-hmm.
next to
Yep.
the dinette. That's just a black, we spray painted it black metal, just transition floor.
Okay.
And we did a similar type of transition flooring between, like, into the cab area.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, it looks beautiful. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's see. Let's talk about the kitchen. So this is a big renovation point. Everyone wants to freshen up that kitchen. So this is what it
Yes.
was beforehand. Did you have any preconceived thoughts about what you wanted to do here?
So initially, I knew I wanted to paint the cabinets white and the walls white. My initial thought was to paint that vertical cabinet, like the pantry. I was going to do like a dark green for that, but then just to simplify things, because it was really taking much longer than I anticipated, I decided to just keep it all the same white to
Okay.
make it easier on myself.
Okay. So let's look at that.
So
Looks beautiful.
thank you.
And it looks like you put in some a new faucet there. How difficult was
Yes.
that for you?
I didn't do that part. My husband did that particular part. I think he hit a little bit of a hiccup. There was the holes for the faucet didn't exactly line up, so he had to buy a certain kind of bit to drill a hole through it,
Okay.
and then he had to kind of troubleshoot. He had to make about 3 trips to Lowe's to get some kind of correct connector. He had to actually take the faucet to Lowe's to finally get the correct thing.
Tell me about the backsplash. What was that, and how difficult was that to put in?
Yeah, so that's just from Amazon. Like, I think the brand is Art 3D. It's just peel and stick hexagon fake tile, and it was pretty tricky. It was pretty tricky because you have to line up every grout line to the best of your ability, and it's just pretty difficult. So there were some frustrating moments where I had to walk away from it and do something else and come back to it when I was less frustrated.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in the photo, it looks great.
Thank you. Thank you. There are a few spots that have started to come a little, and so I've used spray adhesive if I see any pieces that are not sticking exactly right.
Okay.
So,
And tell me about your process for painting the cabinets. Did you go
oh
through
man,
the typical cleaning and then some
I
sort
did.
of primer, or tell me what you did there?
Yeah, I initially did the whole TSP cleaner on all the cabinets, at least in the kitchen area at first. We Man, what did we do? We used the Bullseye 123 gripper primer.
Okay.
So I didn't pre-sand, but I we did do the primer. I did 2 coats of the primer, and then I did 2 coats of the chalked, like the chalk paint, and then I did 2 coats of a polyurethane
Okay.
on every single door.
Well, that is a lot of work. You may have said this earlier, but how long did the whole process of the renovation take?
So from start to finish, it took us 4 weeks, and working on it almost every day. But it was mostly me working on it. So my husband did some of like the more whatever stuff that I didn't know how to do. But as far as the painting, I basically did almost all of that by myself.
Okay, let's talk about
The-
some other photos you sent. This was the dinette. We saw that in the earlier photo. This is a close up of it. So
yes.
some pretty dated look. Got the carpet there and the interesting fabric. So tell us what your thoughts were about this.
Oh man. So this, I thought I can recover this even though I don't know how to sew, which is ridiculous. I couldn't. I thought that I could, and I bought fabric that I really thought that I could problem solve recovering with Velcro strips,
Hmm.
and it would not at all. And so I don't sew. I've never learned how to sew. And so another RVer on another on Instagram said use crib sheets, and I was like, okay, like that's actually a good idea. I can do crib sheets. So it's they're just crib sheets.
Okay, so that's what we've got here. You just covered it up.
Yeah.
And how did you get them to stay? What? Tell me. They just fit
Well,
perfectly. They're fitted sheets, and they just fit perfectly.
they don't know. They don't fit perfectly at all. They fit okay on the bottom ones. That's all really close to a crib size mattress. But
Hmm.
the back ones, we had to use those. They're like those clips that you use to keep sheets on a bed. They
Okay. Yep.
crisscross,
Hmm.
and so that's how those are on. And then we did do a big Velcro strip on the back of the pillow, and there's one on the wood part of the seat itself. And then those two little cute throw pillows kind of help keep it from falling forward. But
Okay.
I mean, it's camping, so I have to tell myself that it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time. In this picture, you can see a bit more of what we did with the transition between the carpet and the
Oh yeah,
floor.
yeah, yeah.
And sorry about the cords, but yeah, that's kind of how we figured that out. And my husband did all that trim work because the entire slide and the front of it was all carpeted, and we got rid of all of that.
Okay,
So
excellent. And you freshened up that backsplash there, or the wallpaper that was there, with some new wallpaper. It looks like.
yes,
How? What?
yes,
What is that, and how difficult was that to put up there?
it was pretty tricky, especially underneath because I had to be physically under there to do that. So that was pretty tricky, and I didn't want anyone in the camper with me while I was working on it because I was frustrated and sweaty, and I just needed to be by myself. So it took some time, but it, it looks good, and I'm happy
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, looks really nice. Looks really nice. Okay,
Thank you.
so finally we've got the bedroom. Oh no, we got the bathroom. Forgot about the bathroom. So this was,
Yeah.
pretty typical bathroom, small space, um, different shades of brown. So tell me what you were thinking when you walked into this space for the first time. What did you want to do with it?
Well, I thought it was a really good size, first of all, because it's way bigger than the previous bathroom we had. So I was happy about that. The sink is very yellow. It was more yellow in person than you can tell in the picture. So we knew we would have to problem solve that. And then the faucet was pretty awful and just not good.
Okay.
So
All right. So let's take a look at what you did there. Quite a transformation again. So
yes.
you've got some subway tile looking stick-on tiles, I assume, and then you painted the sink, or did you put a new one in?
Well, I thought it would be easier to paint it. So he actually took it out and did this whole paint type thing that honestly it ended up being more difficult and cost probably more than if we had just replaced it. So in hindsight, we really should have just replaced the sink.
Okay.
So
And then, so a couple of things. So the big part of this was the subway tile looking. Tell me more about that.
so again, that's just the inexpensive 3D Art 3D brand, I believe, from Amazon, and just stuck it up there. So this was much easier to work with than the hexagon tile.
And
Yeah.
then tell me about the faucet. So you replaced the faucet. That looks very
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah, we just bought a pretty, I think it was like $40 or something, inexpensive black matte faucet from Amazon. So
Okay.
it's not an RV faucet, it's just a bathroom faucet.
Okay. And looks like the same flooring that you had in the front of the house.
Yes, we did that all throughout. So, working around the toilet was difficult, working around the tub was I mean, the shower was kind of difficult.
Hmm.
So I was a little worried about trying to make sure that it was sealed off as far as water.
Okay, so let's now finally the bedroom. So a nice dark cavernous bedroom. Um,
Yes.
so tell me what you were thinking here. What did you want to do to transform this space?
Well, I knew that we did not want the window behind our heads. It's really difficult to sit up in bed and watch TV with a window right behind your head.
Hmm.
So I knew that we were going to want to cover that window. So, and then my mother in law, who I love, had to bring it to my attention that it's an emergency exit. And so then that kind of threw a little bit of a monkey wrench in our thinking. So we had to problem solve that.
Okay, so yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Is that basically the covering up that window back there, making a headboard, so to make it a more livable space for you all and the way you live? Was that pretty much the main objective of renovating this particular room?
Well, and I knew I just wanted it to be brighter and more happy. I need any spaces that I'm in to be bright and happy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well,
and it
that's
was
nice.
just very
The yeah, the covering up windows has always been a controversial topic in the renovations group. Is it, because there are so few windows in a typical RV. So, but you came up with a pretty clever solution here. So first off, it's a beautiful look. It's really much more lighter, and it's a cool headboard. It's a cool
oh yeah, yeah.
headboard behind the bed. So
Thank you.
so tell us what that workaround was, so you could access the windows.
Well, for some reason I don't understand, my father-in-law had a piano hinge in his garage, and he's like, I have this piano hinge. I think you guys could maybe use that. So we actually were able to attach the headboard to the wall using a piano hinge, and then you can't really see in the picture, but there are latches in the top corners of the headboard, so you can unlatch it and it folds down.
Okay.
In the event of an emergency, which I hope we never have, but if we do and we have to get out that window, it is still accessible as an emergency exit.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. And tell me about the headboard itself. What material is that?
We don't really know. It's I believe at Lowe's there's these packages of just like cheap planks, wood planks. I think they're just different kinds of wood,
Okay.
and it's very thin, very lightweight. So we used like a one by something just as like a kind of a frame, and then my husband used a miter saw to cut all of those at the correct angle and lay them out. And once he had it all together, he burned it with a blowtorch.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to ask, because it does have that burned wood look. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
In hindsight, we should have burned the pieces before putting them together because we didn't anticipate that the pieces would curl up a little bit when they got burned.
Mm,
So it kind of warped it just a little bit when we burned it. So,
yeah.
but it's okay.
Oh, it's a cool look. Yeah, it's a nice
Yeah, and then I
focal piece for that room.
thank you. And then I did just spray polyurethane on it just to, I don't know, smooth it out a little bit. So
Okay. So after all said and done, you're happy with this solution of being able to have a headboard and something to lean a bit against when watching
yes,
TV,
yeah, it's great.
but also
Yeah,
you're not removing your escape route.
right. Yeah, we just used the rig out about 4 days after we finished it. We did about a 5 night trip in the Texas Hill Country. So yeah, so we just got back yesterday from our trip, and it was great. We
Nice.
really, really enjoyed it. So
Nice. Well, it's a beautiful renovation. So, congratulations on that, and really appreciate you joining us to share some of your thoughts on that. Any final thoughts, or now that we've gone through this, any recommendations for anyone that would be doing a similar renovation?
I just think, like with anything that is worth doing, it's hard. It's really, really hard. And so just know that it's going to be hard. Know that it's going to take much longer than you think. I thought this was going to be a 2 week renovation. That's how sure of my abilities I was. And it was a 4 week renovation. And it was almost every day working on it. So just don't give up. Just stick it out. If you decide to do it, like get it done.
That's great advice, and thank you for popping on to share your expertise with
Sure.
everyone.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Jenny, if someone wanted to find out more about you and your family, do you have an Instagram account that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, sure. We have an Instagram account. It has to do with RV stuff and Jeeps and our dogs and our family as a whole. So if they want to know anything more about me or any of that, they're certainly welcome to follow me. on Instagram.
And what is that handle?
I am at J Hinsey.
J.
So
All right, spell that.
JHINTZE.
All right, we'll put that in the show notes. And Jenny, thank you so much for joining us on the
Sure.
virtual campground. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, have a
I
good one.
appreciate it.